Hello, people. You are wondering why I'm posting like movie posters with the soundtracks behind them. Well, it is a bit of a message behind it. A bit of a sad message behind it all. Like, the entertainment industry is dead. Basically dead. And I still got more to post on there. Because, you know, these movies, man, what made me who I am today. You know? Like, made me who I am today. And I still got more movies to post. Like, more little short videos to post. And the thing is, right, me and my sister, right, we used to grow up on the greatest movies of all time, especially my mum. My mum grew us up on the greatest movies of all time, especially my grandmother too, like you heard. King Kong was practically my first monster movie I was introduced to by my grandmother. Oh, shivers. My hair is stuck on my glasses. All right. Wind's blowing. I've got to look out the wind. My glasses on. Yeah. Put your glasses on. Oh, yeah. Smoking. Glasses. Back on. What I was saying. Yeah. Me and my mum and my grandmother and me and my sister and my grandmother, God bless her soul, she's the best. Like, if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be into masterpiece movies to this day. I grew up on a lot of great movies. I grew up on Oliver Twist, Gone with the Wind, Lawrence of Arabia, Cleopatra, all sorts of movies, especially King Kong 1933, the first monster movie I was introduced to as a child, my first kaiju movie. It was the greatest movie of all time I ever watched. It left me, when I first watched the movie and watched it to A to Z, finished from to the beginning and the end, my mouth was like, wow. Like the technology back then they have to use, the budget of technology they have to use back then, and still, still, it is a good movie. With all the technology, the stop motion technology. Stop motion is one of the best technology to my, I love stop motion. I have, I'm about to get that movie, Coraline. Not really a big fan of Wallace and Gromit that much. I know they made Chicken Run. I watched them. I did watch Wallace and Gromit like growing up, but it was not really my favourite movie. My favourite movie or my favourite show back then. I know Chicken Run was made by the same people who made Wallace and Gromit. I kind of did like Chicken Run. It was something different. They were going in a different direction. And yeah, like I was into stop motion. And I never knew King Kong was stop motion when I was a kid. I didn't even know anything about that stuff back then. And just knowing they used that technology back then, like, it was pretty astounding, man. Like how how we got cameras that can do better, but back in them days it would have been so hard, you know? And yeah, like, especially when me and my mum were going for a hard, rough patch in our lives back in 2001, or one of them years, Harry Potter came out. Like, you know, we went to launch day, like day one, you know, what it says on the video. Me and my mum went to go and see it, because me and my mum, we were going for a hard patch. We were going through pretty much a dark history. It's a bit personal. It's like family issue, personal things I don't really want to talk about. And I think my mum said, fuck it, let's go to the cinema, you know, just like, you know, and we went to go to Bankstown Cinema, and that's when we first watched the first Harry Potter movie. And that's when I got more into video games back then, you know, like my first true video game my mum ever brought me was Harry Potter, the Philosopher's Stone, and the Chamber of Secrets. You know, when my mum brought them games for me, I couldn't stop playing them. I played them over and over and over and over again. Collected all the cards, collected all the jelly beans and everything else, and collected all the trophies from the Quidditch Cup and everything else. Yeah, I completed that fucking game on the PS1 era days. You know, these movies, man, what I grew it up on, and especially my sister too, and everything else. I do look back at the good times in them, you know, like them movies back then, like how they were like and everything else. Like, you know, the thing is, I grew it up, I never had a strong male in my life. I never really had a strong male in my life. Like my father, he was never in my life. Never really basically known my father that much. But at least I can say I did have a strong female in my life. That's my mother. And I do thank my mum, you know why? Because she made me grow up on all these magical movies and all these masterpieces, and it's just not that too. If it wasn't for her, like, because I want to be a director next year, it's going to be this next year coming, it's going to be a big change for me. A lot of changes, because I want to pursue my dreams. And I really, really do. I really want to go to these places where they can teach me how to read and write, not just teach me to read and write. You know, yeah, and I like to learn how to make films and direct films and produce films too. Yeah. I want to bring back the old movie magic again, what I grew up on. Like, me and my sister's favourite movie when we grew up, when we were kids, was Jumanji, Land Before Time, Anastasia, and everything else. We grew up on great movies, and my sister, well, practically, my mother didn't introduce me to this movie. It was my sister who introduced me to this movie. The Dark Crystal was directed by Jim Henson himself, the guy who made the Muppets and everything else. That was a fucking magical film. That was. And I did watch the Netflix. It was okay, but it doesn't beat the original, you know. And the Netflix series of the Dark Crystal, Origins I call it, goes back, you know, it goes back to the prequel times, you know, where it all began. And yeah, like the puppeteering in that movie was absolutely incredible, like amazing. I can't even say that word. I can't even say that word too because I'm speechless. it was extraordinary. It was a masterpiece of its craft. Like kick the Muppets in the side, man, in the bin, right? And you got like one of the greatest like movies Jim Henson ever made, The Dark Crystal. It was a pretty good movie. My sister introduced me to that. Another kind of powerful female in my family, strong female in my family. Yeah, like my mum and my grandmother were the strongest females in my family. They taught me a lot, but my grandmother brought me up on like all the old movies, but my mother kind of like took my grandmother's legacy with her ways of, you know, the movie, how she loved the movies and all that, and you get all the rest. I have two, and you can kind of like say three powerful females in my family. My grandmother, my mother, and my sister. I did have strong females, and they made me into the man who I am kind of like today, more especially my mother did. She made me the man who I am today, and it's an honor. And like practically, basically, two of my family members, my mother and my grandmother, brought me up on the greatest movies of all time. And yeah, it's just a privilege to have a parent like that to bring you up on movies, good movies, you know, good movies. I'm not meaning like shit movies, like, you know, what we got today. Like, you know, good movies, like, you know, masterpieces. And, you know, the thing is, like, my mum's favourite movie, and my mum loves him very much, and he has the hots for him, Kevin Costner, Dancing with the Wolves. And I actually watched that movie, and it was a pretty good movie. Like, I really want to go back and watch that movie again. Like, it's been a long time since I watched it. You know, last time I watched it was like 10 to 20 years ago. Man, that making me feel old. 10 years? Probably. Yeah, like, yeah, I can't really remember so much of it. I know it was a good movie. That's the only thing I can remember. It was a good movie. But I did watch it with my mum. And my mum loves Kevin Costner. She has a hots for him. Yeah, and I got into Kevin Costner's movies because of my mum and everything else, like Unbreakable, Waterworld, all kinds of movies of Kevin Costner's. Like, you know, I'm a big fan of Kevin Costner, like my mum. And Kevin Costner's in Man of Steel 2. Yeah. And yeah, like, it's just a pity and a shame how movies are just dying out, you know, like it's sad. Entertainment industry, like the old entertainment industry, is dying, and it's very sad to see, you know. And if it wasn't for my mother, I wouldn't be watching, and especially my grandmother, and I wouldn't be watching like masterpieces what I am watching today. And you still get your gems here and there, like my friend Gojira says, like the Joker and the new Batman movie with the Riddler in it. And Godzilla, like, you know, the MonsterVerse, they're like gems, like diamonds in the rough in a way. Yeah, like, it's just sad how the old entertainment industry is dying. It's dying out like that, and it's a pity and it's a shame. And I'm glad I have two strong, powerful female in my life who brought me up on great movies. And yeah, it's basically a privilege to have two parents like that, and it's a privilege. Well, I hope you enjoy this video of mine, talking about the past and everything else. And yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you all again, and see you and goodbye, and Yahweh bless you on this good flat stationary plane. See ya. Bye.